Welcome to the Raising Mothers podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kahn. I'm a wife, a mama to two, and a certified conscious parent coach practitioner. It is my mission to guide mothers in transforming the way they connect, communicate, and collaborate with their teen. Every week, I will be bringing you inspiring, empowering, and educational episodes that will give you the tools you need to consciously raise your teenager. All right, let's do this. All right, we're just going to dive right into it. I mean, we're all moms, we are busy. We got no time to do small chat, right? Well, maybe we do. I'm chatty Cathy. I'd love to small chat with you. But for the sake of your time, let's just dive right into it. Today, we're going to be talking about how the inner voice of the parent becomes the outer voice to the child. What do I mean by this? Okay. Have you ever noticed yourself doing something and had the thought oh my gosh, my mom does this. I'm so my mom right now, right? And the reason that this happens is because more often than not, things are caught, not taught. So just by being in the presence of someone or in the same environment as someone, you're going to naturally pick up patterns and habits or ways of doing things. And those patterns and habits or ways of doing things will be repeated so often that they become an unconscious pattern, which means you end up doing them without even thinking about it, right? The same is true when it comes to the parent-child relationship. The inner voice of the parent becomes the outer voice to the child, meaning the way that you talk to yourself, you've been doing it for years. You probably have, initial go-tos when you get triggered. You probably have reactions that you go to when you are upset or feeling impatient or frustrated, stressed, anxious. You name the feeling, you probably have a go-to reaction and you do it every single time without even thinking about it. Why? Because it's become an unconscious pattern. So, the way that you talk to yourself when you make mistakes, when you've had a bad day, when you are feeling anxious or stressed, unconsciously will be the way that you also talk to your child when they are having a bad day, when they are anxious, when they are stressed, when they make a mistake. The expectations you have for yourself will also be unconsciously the expectations you place on your child. If you put so much weight on success being straight A student and star athlete, because that's how you were when you were a child or when you were growing up, unconsciously, you're going to have the same expectations for your child and you're going to interact with them accordingly. Meaning, if they have a bad game, you're going to be on them explaining all the things that they need to do to improve the next game, because that's what you would do to yourself as a child. If your child gets a bad grade, you would be on them, maybe take things away till they get the point that this is not acceptable in this home. Because at some point in your life, it may have not been acceptable in your childhood home. The way that we talk to ourselves unconsciously becomes the way we talk to our children. Now, you might be thinking, totally get it. I find myself doing this all the time, but what can I do? How can I stop that? And so today I wanted to share with you the 3 things that you can implement today to start nurturing yourself and changing the way that you talk to yourself, so that the way that you talk to yourself becomes a healthy communication with yourself, and that becomes your new pattern and habit. So unconsciously, you start to talk to your child in a healthy way and have healthy communication. So the first thing that you can do to rewire the way that you talk to yourself or your inner voice is create time and space in your day to sit, seek, and be still. In other words, find time in your day to meditate, to pray. Why is this so important? Because when we take time to do this, we're actually re-regulating our nervous system and coming back to a neutral place, a neutral energy. So we're not constantly reacting to our world around us, but we're able to actually come from a neutral, calm place and respond in a healthy way. Also, when you're sitting, seeking, and being still through meditation and prayer, you are actually becoming aware of your thoughts and your beliefs. Why is this so important? Our thoughts and our beliefs are linked to the way we react. So, for instance, if your child gets a bad grade and your reaction is to discipline, take things away, and put things in place for them to improve their grade, that is linked to some type of thought or belief, which could be the belief could be my child won't be successful unless they get straight A's. So when you're sitting, seeking, and being still through meditation, you are becoming aware of these thoughts and beliefs that ultimately have a direct reflect on your reactions. And while you're sitting and you're seeking and you're being still, it is so important to notice how you're feeling about yourself. Maybe you had a really crappy day. Maybe you have a lot of shame and guilt from the day as a mom. And while you're in this meditation, that is the place to become aware of it, to process it, and to heal it. What does that look like? If you are feeling shame, you can recognize that shame does not depict who you are. So look at shame as something different from you. You are not shame. You're experiencing this feeling of shame. And where does shame come from? It comes from this place of this need for perfection and attached to some thought and belief. If you're feeling guilt, it is in the meditation that you can become aware of the guilt, recognize it, process it, and heal from it. If you're really down on yourself because you weren't the mom that you wanted to be, in this time of sitting, seeking, and being still, ask yourself, are my expectations realistic? Maybe that day you wanted to get a workout in, make a home cooked meal, work if you work, get all the laundry done, clean the house. And maybe life happened. Maybe your child called you from school because they forgot your lunch and you had to run their lunch over. So that interfered with your day and you weren't able to get as much done. But now you're feeling just like a crappy mom because you're impatient and you are just worn out. It's okay. You're human. And ask yourself, was it realistic to get all of those things done today? And if it wasn't, let it go. Let it go. So, finding or creating time and space in your day to sit, seek, and be still and meditate is really going to help you regulate your nervous system so that moving forward, you're aware of your thoughts and beliefs and how they directly impact your reactions. And you can make changes to now respond in a healthy way. And you'll become more aware of that inner voice and how you talk to yourself so that you can nurture yourself, rewire the programming so it becomes the new unconscious way of how you talk to your children. The second thing is become aware of deeply rooted beliefs and judgments. We all have judgments. In fact, we have probably one judgment every few minutes. It's a natural human thing to judge. And our judgments are based on our thoughts and beliefs. And all too often, we unconsciously judge our children. And as a result, we have certain reactions or talk to them in a certain way. The way that you become aware of your judgments and learn to shed them is you can do this exercise called a judgment detox. And what it looks like is every few hours in the day, you set a timer on your phone. So for one day, every few hours, set a timer on your phone. And when that timer goes off, record all the judgments you had that past few hours. And it will be so eye-opening and so fascinating to see all of these judgments written on paper. And it will be mind-blowing how these judgments are unconsciously projected on to your child. So for instance, a judgment could be, if your child comes home and doesn't start their homework right away, you might be judging them as lazy, when really, maybe they just need a break. But how would you treat yourself? Do you allow yourself to have breaks? So this judgment exercise is so powerful. In fact, it was one of the exercises I did when I was going through my certification with Dr. Shafali. And it was one of the most mind-blowing, eye-opening exercises that I have ever done. And I will do it every so often just to become aware of new judgments. And this is a powerful exercise that can be applied to your partner too, because we also have judgments about them, right? And they are all based on our thoughts and beliefs. The third thing that you can do to become aware of that inner voice so it doesn't become the outer voice to your child is become aware of your reactions and how they are linked to thoughts and beliefs. So, this is how it works. Beliefs are stemmed in childhood. Usually from 0 to 7 years of age is when you have created all of these beliefs. And these beliefs become, from your beliefs, you create thoughts. And from your thoughts, you create feelings. And from your feelings, you create reactions. So that's why if we want to change the reaction, we kind of deconstruct and work backward. We ask ourselves, what was the feeling before I reacted? And what was my thought before I had that feeling? What is my deeply rooted belief? And it's when you can get to the root of that deeply rooted belief, then you can actually change that reaction because you begin to look at that belief and say, why was it created? Is this something that even serves me anymore? Is it something that I can get rid of and shed and free myself from? So really, really becoming aware of your reactions and how they are connected to your thoughts and beliefs. So what that looks like is if you make a mistake, right? Or you forget something. I know I've done this a couple of times. In fact, last week I did this where I thought Gianna had a private lesson. And so we went to her cheer practice and we're sitting there and she's like kind of just like messing around. I'm like, what the heck? Why isn't she with her coach? And then I noticed the coach wasn't there. And then I was like, oh my God, do I have the wrong date? So I look at my calendar. I'm like, I'm 1 week early. And in that moment, I could have gotten like down on myself, like, oh my gosh, how could I forget? Right. But instead, I extended myself grace. Like, of course I forgot. I have a lot going on. I'm a mom trying to manage everyone's schedules. It's bound to happen. Right. So, this is one way where we can become aware of our reaction and go back to our thoughts and beliefs. If I wasn't aware or I was super judging myself or this inner voice that I had was super critical, it would have looked a lot different. In fact, it would have looked something like this. Oh my gosh, Ashley, how could you forget? How could you mistaken the private day? Like really, now you wasted everyone's time. You drove out of your way, you wasted gas, da 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 da, right? The list could go on. That inner voice can be brutal sometimes. But because I have continuously been on this journey of healing and deconstructing, I became aware of the situation. What my initial go-to reaction would be to get down on myself. And instead I was like, no, you're human. You are human. And by changing the way that I talk to myself, when my kids forget something or when they make a mistake, I'm able to extend the same grace because I can do it for myself. Another example is last week, this was a big one, and I didn't react the way I had hoped I would. We had to get passports. We're going on this trip in the summer. And so I had to renew the kids' passports. And if you're under 16 years of age, you actually have to go through the whole application process from the beginning. And so I thought I had like read everything. I thought I had everything I needed. On the application thing, it said like both parents need to be present at the time of the application. And I was like, well, shoot, Mike works. How's that going to happen? So I emailed them or called them. I called them and I left a message. And I was like, hey, my husband won't be able to be there. Is there anything else I need to bring? Well, they didn't call back. So I was like, whatever, we have the appointment. It took like 3 weeks to get this appointment. So I'm like, we're just going to go. So we get there. And the first thing the lady was like, oh, did you bring a check? I was like, nope, no check. But I have my debit card. Like I was like expecting them not to take credit card, but I'm like, well, surely they'll take a debit card. She's like, well, we need a check. I was like, okay, well, there's a bank right down the street. We're early for the appointment. I'll just run and get a cashier's check. Does that work? And she's like, yeah, of course. So it's like, cool, perfect. And then she was like, oh, is there father not here? And I was like, no. And she's like, oh, you're going to have to fill out a form and get it notarized since he's not here. And I was like, really? Like, I just called and left a message yesterday. No one responded. Like, would have been nice to know. And she's like, I'm really sorry, but we're not going to be able to go through with the appointment today. And I was so frustrated. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is so annoying. I literally took the kids out of school early to get here. And I started getting so mad at myself. Like, Ashley, how could you have missed that? You should have called before you came if they didn't call you back. And I started going through the list of all these things that I should have done and really getting down on myself for not having it perfect. And my kids were witnessing this. And it was in that moment that I'm like, oh my gosh, stop the reaction and give yourself grace because you are human. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't aware of my reaction in the first place. And when I became aware of my reaction and how I was getting so down on myself, I paused and I became aware of my thoughts and beliefs. And my thought was, you got to have everything perfect. And my belief was, if things aren't perfect, then you're a failure. And it was in that moment that I was like, I'm not going there. I am going to turn this bus around. And the kids were like, Mom, are you so mad? I'm like, I got to be honest. Yes, I am absolutely frustrated, but it was a mistake. No big deal. I'll make another appointment and we'll come back. And when we're able to do that with ourselves, we're able to do that with our kids when they mess up, when they forget something, when they don't have all of the details that they need. And so the inner voice of the parent becomes the outer voice to the child. And so my question to you is, what is your current inner voice? And what is your current outer voice? And the way that we learn to rewire, nurture, and heal that inner voice and have a different approach to ourselves is by doing these three things. Number one, create the time and space in your day to sit, seek, and be still, which looks like meditation. Number two, become aware of deeply rooted beliefs and judgments, and you can do that judgment exercise. And number three, become aware of your reactions and how they are linked to thoughts and beliefs. Just like when we notice we are doing the same things that our parents did, these beliefs and patterns and habits become so deeply ingrained, we don't even think about it when we're doing it. But by being still, we can start to become aware. By becoming aware of deeply rooted beliefs, we can start to heal. And by becoming aware of our reactions and how they're attached to these thoughts and beliefs, we can start to create change. I'm literally so excited that you took the time to hang out with me here in this space, and I would absolutely love to connect with you more. You can find me on Instagram or visit my website at ashleycahn.co. That's ASHLEYKAHN.co. I'll see you there.